Welcome dear students. So today we are going to discuss the next topic in the subject EST 120 Basics of Civil Engineering. So we were discussing module 2 in the last class. So these are the contents in module 2. Already we completed the portion surveying. In today's class we are going to discuss the construction materials like of course you have to study various construction materials, the bricks, cement, stones, sand and timber, etc. Today we will be discussing about bricks. So what is a brick? You all know that bricks are the most commonly used construction material. So there are various types of materials that are used in construction like the stones, the bricks, cement, etc. Of course, stones and bricks are mainly used for the masonry part of a structure. So masonry is usually done using bricks or stones. Now how does a stone differ from a brick? We know that stones are naturally available materials. So stones are obtained from the natural rock deposits which we call as a quarry. Whereas when it comes to the bricks, bricks are artificial materials which are manufactured using clay. So at places where clay is available in plenty, bricks will prove to be a much cheaper building material than stones. So we know that in Kerala mostly we use laterite stones for construction. In most of the parts of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc., there bricks are widely used for constructing structures. So bricks are prepared by molding the clay in rectangular blocks of uniform size, and then we dry them and burn them. So in the desired shape molds will be prepared, and the clay will be filled into these molds, after which it will be dried and burnt. So that is how bricks are manufactured. Or we can also say that it is a very commonly or very widely used construction material. Now what are the constituents of brick, of good brick earth? So when you say brick earth, it means the soil or the clay that is being used for manufacturing the brick. So in order to get a very good quality brick, the brick earth or the clay or the soil that is used for construction of bricks should contain the following constituents. That is, it should contain silica, alumina, lime, iron oxide and magnesia. Now what are the importance of these constituents in brick earth? So when it comes to silica, the brick earth that is being used for manufacturing the bricks should contain about 50% of silica. So the main composition of brick earth will be silica, because it is one of the important constituent, and this is responsible for preventing the cracking, the shrinking, etc. of the bricks, and also the presence of silica affects the durability of the bricks. But if at all, if it is present in excess, then it will destroy the cohesion between the particles, and then it will lead to the bricks becoming brittle. So it should not be present in excess. If it is present in excess, it will lead to brittleness of the brick. So it should be about 50% in the total sample or total volume of earth that is being taken. Now coming to alumina, this is also an important constituent of brick earth. So usually a good brick earth should contain about 20 to 30% of alumina, and the main purpose of alumina in brick earth is that it is responsible for the plasticity characteristic of the earth. So when you say plasticity of earth, it means the easiness with which it can be handled. So how easily you can mold or shape the earth or clay, that is called plasticity. Okay, so it is the alumina that is present in the brick earth which is responsible for the plasticity characteristic. Again, in this case also, if it is present in excess, then the raw brick will shrink during the process of drying. So after you fill the brick in the mold, what we do is it will be it will be allowed to set, after which it will be dried. So if excess alumina is present, then what happens is the raw brick will shrink when it is it is dried in the sun. Now coming to the next constituent, that is lime. So the percentage of lime that should be present in brick earth should be in the range of 5 to 10%. And the main purpose of lime is that it prevents the shrinkage of the bricks. Like alumina, again presence of lime will prevent the shrinkage of the bricks during the process of drying. And one more thing is that lime is what causes the silica that is present in clay to melt. So I told you it will be filled in the mold, then it will be dried, and then after that it will be burnt. So during the process of burning, it is the lime that is present in the earth or brick earth which will cause the silica to melt, and also it will help to bind the silica particles. Again here, excess of lime will lead to the brick to melt, and also it might the brick might lose the shape. So excess of anything is not desirable, whether it is silica, alumina or lime. Now coming to the next constituent, that is iron oxide. A good brick earth should contain about 5 to 7% of iron oxide, and it is the iron oxide that gives a red color to the brick. So you would have seen that the bricks are all red in color. So it is the presence of iron oxide that imparts the red color to the bricks, and it also improves the impermeability and durability. It gives strength and hardness, and again, if iron oxide is present in excess, then the color of the brick will become, say, blackish or dark blue. You would have seen some bricks, it will have a different color unlike the usual red color. So if it has a darker color, it indicates the presence of excess iron oxide. And even if iron oxide is very less, what happens is the brick will become yellowish in color. It will become lighter in color. So it should be present, say, about 3 to 7% in order to impart the correct color to the bricks. Now coming to the next constituent, that is magnesia. A good brick earth should contain actually a small quantity of magnesia, like say about 1% only, and magnesia imparts the yellow tint. So you can see that there is a yellow tint for the bricks that is imparted by the presence of magnesia, and it is again responsible for reducing the shrinkage of the bricks, and excess of magnesia will lead to the decay of the bricks. So these are the important constituents. So silica, alumina, lime, iron oxide and magnesia. So if you have to obtain a good quality brick, then the clay or the brick earth that is used for manufacturing the bricks should contain these constituents in the amount that has been already mentioned. Now there are some ingredients which may be harmful for the brick. So we'll see what are they. So they are say lime, like I told you, if it is in excess, it is not desirable. Then the iron pyrites, alkalis, pebbles and vegetation or any other organic matter. So we know that a small quantity of lime is preferred. The range is preferably it should be between 5 to 10%. But if lime is present in excess, it will cause the brick to melt and also the brick will start losing its shape. And also if at all lime is present in the form of lumps, what happens is it will be converted into quick lime after it is burnt, and this will again lead to the expansion and it will cause splitting of the bricks into pieces. So lime is not desirable in excess. Now coming to iron pyrites, the presence of iron pyrites in the brick earth will cause the bricks to get crystallized, and also it will disintegrate during the process of burning, and it also leads to discoloration of the bricks. It will cause discoloration of the bricks. And now coming to the alkalis. So alkalis exist in the brick usually in the form of soda and potash. So this is also not desirable because it will absorb the moisture from the atmosphere, especially when we use brick for construction of walls, etc. If there is excess alkali present in the brick earth, what happens is it will lead to the absorption of moisture, and what happens is with passage of time, so as time passes, what happens, the moisture will get evaporated and that will leave a grey color or a white color on the surface of the wall, and this we call it as efflorescence. So efflorescence means the presence of white deposits on the surface of brick. So this white patch, what happens is it will affect the appearance of the building. So it will not look good and it will affect the aesthetic appearance of the building. So excess alkali is harmful for bricks. And of course presence of pebbles. So pebbles, small stones, if they are all present in the brick earth during the process of mixing, it will lead to some problems, and it will also prevent the uniform mixing of the clay, and thus whenever we manufacture bricks using brick earth which contains small pebbles etc., it will result in weak and porous bricks. And also the bricks that contain pebbles cannot be broken into regular shapes as per the requirement. So we know that whenever we construct a wall, we sometimes at some point we have to cut the bricks into different shapes. So when there is presence of pebbles, or if the brick is porous, what happens? We cannot cut the brick into the desirable shapes. Of course, the presence of vegetation and organic matter also is not desirable, because it is what happens is, if there is organic matter, there will be during the process of burning of the bricks, it will lead to the evolvement of various gases and other matters which is not desirable. So these are the normally these are the harmful ingredients that are likely to be present, but it should be avoided. So now this figure, it shows the efflorescence. See how the white patches are formed. So this process, we call it as efflorescence. This is especially when there is a presence of alkali in the bricks. So after absorbing moisture, it will lead to formation of grey or white patches, which we call as efflorescence. Now coming to the process of manufacturing of the bricks, the manufacturing of brick usually involves the following operations. Firstly, the preparation of clay. Then the second step is a molding process. Then we have the drying process and the burning process. The first process is preparation of clay. So preparation of clay means to prepare the clay which has to be filled into the mold in the desired rectangular shapes. So the clay that is being used for the manufacture of bricks are prepared in a particular order. Say first we have to unsoil. So from the soil we have to take out the clay, that is unsoiling, digging. Then we have to clean it. We have to dig out the soil and take the clay out. Then we have to clean it. If there is any other presence of any other undesirable matters, it has to be removed. Then it has to be blended and tempered. So that is unsoiling means the top layer of the soil, say up to 200 millimeter depth, will be taken or it will be thrown away. And then digging means the clay will be dug out from the ground, and then it will be spread on the level ground. Now cleaning means, like I told you, the clay which we dig out might contain some vegetable matter or pebbles or some other undesirable matter. So the clay has to be washed and it has to be screened, and this only then we will obtain good clay. And of course the clay will be exposed to the atmosphere for softening. It has to be softened, so it has to be exposed to the atmosphere for a few weeks so that it will be fully softened. And of course then the process of blending has to be done. So blending means it is actually the intimate or harmonious mixing of the clay. So the clay has to be mixed thoroughly or intimately, and this process we call it as blending. So actually blending makes the clay fit for the next process which we call as tempering. So in the process of tempering, the clay will be brought to a proper degree of hardness so that it can be made ready for the next operation of molding. So thus the preparation of clay is very important. We have to dig the soil, take out the clay, clean it, then blend it and then temper it. So after this, the next step is the process of molding. So molding means the clay that is being prepared or after it is being prepared, it has to be sent into the molds. It has to be filled into the molds. Again, molding can be either in two ways. One is hand molding and then we have machine molding. So in hand molding, the bricks will be molded using the hand, that is manually, and actually it is adopted whenever the manpower is very cheap and available in plenty. And in the case of machine molding, machines are used for molding the brick. so that large quantity of bricks can be manufactured in this way. Now coming to the next process, that is the drying process. So drying means after the bricks are being molded and set in the mold, the bricks has to be taken out and it has to be dried in the sun. So they are before burning. Before the burning operation, the drying has to be done. And so in this process, what happens is the bricks will be laid longitudinally in the stacks, and then the stack in different stacks it will be laid, and then it will be allowed to dry until the bricks will become hard. And after the process of drying, the next process, that is the burning process. So in the burning process, the bricks are burned at very high temperature, and this is mainly done to gain the desirable strength and durability, and of course the density and the color of the brick, everything comes out well after the burning process. So there are different methods of burning, like the clamp burning and the kiln burning. So this process of manufacturing is not to be learned detail as per your syllabus. You just have to know what are the uses, the properties and the classification of bricks. So I am just explaining to you what are the processes involved. So these are the different processes that are involved in manufacturing of the bricks. I hope it is clear. Firstly, preparation of the clay, then molding, drying and burning. I have just included. So preparation of the clay is done by unsoiling, digging, cleaning, weathering, blending and tempering. And of course molding, this filling of the clay into the mold, it can be either hand molding or machine molding. Now drying, mainly it is done by stacking the bricks, and usually it is laid along the edges, and then it will be dried in the sun. And burning, usually it is burnt at very high temperatures, and up to 650 degrees. What happens is the whole water that is present will be removed, and again it is further burnt, say for a temperature of 1100 degrees. So it can be clamp burning or kiln burning. Clamp burning means it's small scale burning, and kiln burning, it is a larger clamps are actually used in this case, in the case of clamps, they are actually temporary structures which are constructed on the ground and say at a height of about 4 to 6 meters. Usually whenever we manufacture bricks in low scale, we adopt the clamp burning, and when we have to manufacture bricks in a large scale, we use a larger oven that is called as a kiln. So then we go for the kiln burning. Now coming to the properties of bricks. So good bricks should have the following properties, or these are the required properties of good bricks. Firstly, the color. So the color should be uniform and bright. So it should not be dull or it should not be pale, but it has to be uniform. Everywhere throughout the cross section of the brick, the color has to be uniform and bright. And coming to the shape, the bricks should have plain faces, and they should have sharp and true right angled corners. So the corners of the brick the edges should be sharp. It should not be bent or broken, etc. And also the surface of the faces should be plain. Coming to the size of the brick should be of standard sizes. That is, we have specified sizes for the bricks, which we'll be studying when we study brick masonry. I will be dealing with another topic, brick masonry, in the next module. So that time that shall be explained in detail. Now coming to the next, that is the texture. So the brick should possess very fine, dense and uniform texture, and they should not possess any cavities or any unburnt lime, etc. The texture should be fine and dense. And then when it comes to the next property, that is soundness. So whenever we take two bricks and strike it against each other, it should produce a clear ringing sound, or whenever we struck it with a hammer, it should produce a metallic sound. Then we can say that it is sufficiently sound. And of course the hardness, it should be hard. So how will we test the hardness? When you scratch the brick using your finger, it should not produce any impression. So the next property, that is water absorption. So water absorption means after immersing the brick in water for say 24 hours, the absorption should not be more than 20% by weight. That is, firstly you have to weigh the bricks, dry weight of the brick has to be taken. Then the brick has to be immersed in water for say about 24 hours. After that, when you see due to the absorption of water, what happens, the weight of the brick would have increased. So this increase in weight should not be more than 20%. So that is also one desirable property. Then coming to the efflorescence, that is the brick should not show any white patches, and this is what is called efflorescence. Then thermal conductivity, the brick should have low thermal conductivity so that the buildings that are built with the bricks will remain cool in the summer and warm in winter. And of course sound insulation is another property, that is the heavier bricks actually are poor insulators of sound, while the lightweight and the hollow bricks provide good insulation. Now coming to the fire resistance of bricks is usually good, and the bricks are actually used to encase steel columns to protect them from fire. So more than the stones, the bricks are proven to have more fire resistance. Actually in the process of manufacturing bricks, like I told you, the bricks are burnt say at a temperature of more than 1100 degrees Celsius. So that means it is highly fire resistant. So these are the desirable properties of bricks. I hope it is clear. Now coming to the classification of the bricks. So bricks that are used in construction are classified in different types. Firstly, the classification of bricks as per the common practice is they are classified as into four categories, that is the first class bricks, the second class bricks, third class bricks, and the fourth class bricks. So we'll see what it is. So first class bricks are actually bricks which are table molded and of standard shape, and they are also burnt in kilns. And here the surface of the bricks as well as the edges of the bricks are very sharp. It is square in shape, perfect smooth texture, and it will be straight. And we can say that it complies with all the qualities of a good brick. So first class bricks means they are very bricks which are manufactured with high precision and which has very good shape, and they are mainly used for superior work of permanent nature. So they are a standard quality. So such bricks we call it as first class bricks, and normally we use them for work of superior or for superior work of permanent nature. Now coming to the second class bricks, so these are actually ground molded, that is they are molded on the ground, and again they are burnt in the kilns. Now the surface, of course, we can say it is somewhat rough, and the shape is also a little irregular, and these bricks may have cracks here and there, and their edges may not be as sharp as the first class bricks, and they are mainly used at places where the brickwork is to be provided with a coat of plaster. Okay, so usually second class bricks we have to, after constructing using a second class brick, we may have to provide plastering in order to cover the defects. Coming to the third class bricks, so these bricks are actually ground molded and they are burnt in the clamps. So I told you the clamps and the kilns, they are used for burning the bricks. Third class bricks are burnt in the clamps, and they are not at all hard, and they have very rough surface, irregular and distorted edges, and they have a dull look, and these are mainly used for unimportant and temporary structures, and also at places where the rainfall is not very heavy. Coming to the fourth class bricks, so they are actually overburnt bricks with irregular shape and dark color. So all these overburnt bricks etc. will be classified as the fourth class bricks, and usually they are not used for any construction purpose. Instead we will use them as concrete in foundation, then also for floors, road work etc. Because the overburnt bricks will have a compact structure, and sometimes they are used in as an aggregate even in the manufacturing of concrete. So these are the different types of bricks as per the common practice. So coming to the next type of classification of bricks, that is based on the constituent materials. So based on the constituent materials, they are classified as common burnt clay bricks, sand lime bricks, engineering bricks, concrete bricks and fly ash clay bricks. So common burnt clay bricks, they are actually formed by pressing in the molds, and these bricks will be then dried and burnt in a kiln. They are actually used in general works with no special attractive appearances. And now coming to the sand lime bricks. Sand lime bricks are made by mixing sand, then fly ash and lime, followed by some chemical process. And such bricks are, they actually have very good strength, and they can be used as a load bearing member for any structures. And then coming to the engineering bricks. The engineering bricks are actually manufactured at very high temperatures, and the engineering bricks, they actually offer excellent load bearing capacity, and also they are moisture proof or damp proof, and also they resist chemical action. So these are the bricks, we call it as engineering bricks. Of course, the concrete bricks, bricks are manufactured from concrete, that is solid concrete, and concrete bricks are usually placed in fences, or they are usually provided to give an aesthetic appearance to the buildings, and they are manufactured to provide different colors as pigmented during its production. So in different colors you can manufacture the concrete bricks. And then finally the fly ash clay bricks. The fly ash clay bricks are manufactured using clay and fly ash, and some studies have also shown that these bricks will tend to fail the poor pop outs, and when bricks come into contact with moisture and water, it will cause the bricks to expand. So fly ash bricks have a tendency to expand. So these are the different types of bricks which can be classified as per the material, that is based on the constituent materials that are present in the clay, or that are added, or sometimes we add some other additions to the normal or conventional clay mix or the brick earth. So based on that we can classify the bricks, that is based on the constituent materials. So these are the types. So I hope it is clear.